फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन यानी कि वित्तीय संवेषण किसी भी देश की स्थिरता और उन्नति के लिए बहुत ज़रूरी है. Providing financial services at an affordable cost can empower millions of people to start their own businesses and, in return, contribute to the growth of our economy. We have with us today Ms. Chetna Gala Sinha, founder and chairperson, Mandeshi Mahila Bank and the Mandeshi Foundation, in conversation with Ms. Minari Shah, Director Public Relations, Amazon India, sharing with us some invaluable insights and information on how financial inclusion is being taken to the Indian heartland.
We are very lucky here to have with us Chetna Gala Sinha. She's the founder and chair of the Mandeshi Bank, which is really addressing the needs of the rural women micro entrepreneurs in India. This is fairly unusual because she did not start sometime now. She started nearly 3 decades back, and she moved from Mumbai to work into the heart of rural areas. And today, I think they have tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of account holders, managing millions of dollars of gross of business, and really even running a business school for rural women in India. Hello, Chetna. It's so wonderful to have you here. I'm delighted. Thank you for speaking with us here right now.
My pleasure, Minari.
Great. So, as we are in our third day today for the Sambhav event, where we're really looking at various ways that can unlock the infinite possibilities, playing on the word Sambhav, of course, and the large, possibilities for the country. And a large part of it is really in terms of, what can our entrepreneurs, our small and medium businesses, which are a large part of audience, how can they help? But within this context, it's wonderful to have you here because you are working in a very, very different kind of an area, uh, which is something that everyone wants to talk about. That's a large part of India, and that's really the rural. It's something that confuses a lot of people. It's people aren't sure, is it a great opportunity, is it a great challenge, and how do we really manage this entire Bharat, as has begun to be called. And you have done some really amazing work, and with women in the rural India, and I think that would add a great insight and definition. So that's really something that we're really looking forward to. But before we really get started, it would be really great to understand what made you really start with this. You've spoken about Kantabai, a simple woman, and how the experience with her really got you to start with the Mandeshi Bank. So, do you want to tell us a little more about your experience with that and how you got started?
Sure, Minari. I must have shared Kantabai's story maybe like 1,000 times, but I still feel that whenever I share the story, it's not a story, right? It's a whole journey. So it would be every time I do it, I find that, that zeal, that passion, that persistent to change the life actually refreshes me. So it was, I'm talking about 2.5 decades ago, or 3 decades, when I was studying in Mumbai University, doing my graduation program. I joined Gandhian organization, Sarvodaya Mandal, where the leader of the organization, Jayaprakash Narayan, used to travel across country and telling students to work in villages of India. And I got very attracted towards this movement, students and youth. And I actually traveled with Jayaprakash Narayan across India in the villages, That was when I was just 21 years old. And while traveling, this is very interesting that we have this idealism of villages, idealism of Bharat on one side, but at the same time, I mean, when we have to like stay there for a week, great. But otherwise, that one is not sure. And I also went traveled with him, and I was actually got very passionate about it. And I decided that I'll be working in villages of India throughout my life. And with that idealism, I actually did my post-graduation, was teaching economics for 1 year. While traveling, I met my husband, who is a farmer, not highly educated, but he was a farmer leader. He could pull the crowd. And I decided to marry him and shifted and left Mumbai to the village Maswal, where I started a bank. Actually, there was no plan of starting the bank. It was no action program, no business plan, nothing. Kantabai came to me and she said, I want to open a saving account. And I was like, you are doing a business on the street. You are doing a business of blacksmith. Do you even have money to save? She was so persistent. She said that I want to open a saving account. I am doing business on the street, staying with my family on the street. I want to buy a tarpaulin sheet, and I want to save money for that. I felt she's not asking for grant or subsidy. I went with Kantabai to different banks. Bank denied opening the account. Why? Because she was not an affordable client. So I decided, why not start a bank for women like Kantabai, and applied for the banking license at the Reserve Bank of India. Our license was rejected. Why? Because our women could not read and write. They had a thumb impression on the place of signature. They were all members of the bank. So Reserve Bank said, we cannot issue a license to the bank whose promoting members are non-literate. I was devastated. I was crying. I went back to the village, talked to women, Kantabai and other women. We couldn't get the license. You know, Minari, what they said? They said that we do not know to read and write, but we know to count. And I decided that we'll apply next time, and women will accompany me. And 15 women accompanied me to Reserve Bank of India after 5 months. During that time, our women said, we learn to read and write. And our literacy classes started. We applied 5 months after that, went to Reserve Bank of India. Our women challenged the RBI officer, telling him that ask us to calculate the interest of any principal amount. If we fail, don't issue the license. But tell your officers to do it without calculator and see who can calculate faster. Needless to say that we got the banking license. So I would say, this is Bharat. Poor, not much resources available. I mean, modern resources or technology or knowledge or schools. But there's commitment and persistence, which is there. And so Mandishi is the first rural women's bank started by and for and managed by women with no outside investment.
That's pretty amazing a story. I have known some of it, but just hearing you recount it feels so special. And I go to my husband's village, and some of the farms that he has are all manned by his. He has these cousins who help us look after, and it's all women, and they do such a fantastic job, and their knowledge about everything is so incredible. And that really makes me think about, you spoke about, how your license initially got rejected. And we talk a lot about financial inclusion today. And that's something that I think governments and everyone's really trying hard to bring in. Now, you are serving two parts of communities which have been quite disenfranchised in many ways, the women and the rural, and bringing these together. What are the kind of things which you think sets them apart, and what have been your learnings, and how are you seeing that changing decade over decade to where we are today?
So, Minari, it's very interesting where now the world has so come closer with the technology, right? Even rural India is miles and miles away from the shining city of Mumbai. But at the same time, you have a digital technology, which is actually the exposure of even women in rural India is so much. So it is a very interesting time. Let me tell you, like, in spite of all these challenges, how are they keeping up with the world, right? And I would just like to share the one of the story of one of our ladies, Sunita Kamble. She is a paravet, and what she does is that she does the vaccination and inseminations in goat. And this lady, I mean, it's a very male dominated business or work which is there, that you do insemination in goats, you do vaccination, you are always on two-wheeler, moving from village to village and house to house. And a business school with Mandeshi Bank, we have a business school. Business school gives training for these paravets. And so she actually does, and she did like very successfully did the deliveries of goat. And then she got an award by Niti Aayog. And when she got an award, she flew to Delhi from her village to Pune and then to Delhi. She was the first Dalit women, backward caste lady from her village flew to Delhi to receive that award. And when she came back the next day, the village panchayat leaders facilitated her. And not only that, but they went and had a tea in her house, which is very rare in rural India, where the upper caste political leaders will go to the scheduled caste person's house. And when they did that, and it was like the Sunita Kamble was so proud of her achievement. And not only that, but on one side, she was working very hard to prove herself. But on the other side, she was breaking century-old caste barrier, century-old gender biases. And with that, another thing which I saw with these paravets and goat doctors is that during lockdown, you know what they have done? Though everything was closed, markets were closed, animals, farmers would want to buy animals, sell animals, where would they go? And these goat doctors like Sunita Kamble, they created a digital animal market on WhatsApp group. Now, can you imagine digital animal market? And there was no, like, they themselves invented these things, that how farmers can buy and sell animals, and created a digital market for animals. And now we are working on the app that where farmer women can buy and sell goat on the digital app, because on the groups you have like 100 or 200 people, but there are thousands and thousands of women want to do this. And these are the women in a very small village. They hardly have a one bus in their village, but they are capable of going on digital marketing. So this is, I feel that, this is the, not only just passion, but they are ready for the revolution. And these women have never been to the high school. Women like good doctors like Sunita and all, they couldn't get an access to high school, but they have become pioneer in creating these digital markets. Main learning I get from these women is that when they did this digital market of animals, the learning was that never provide poor solutions to poor people. They are smart. And the second, when they go on two-wheelers, door to door, work so hard, then you listen to them. The another learning was that my courage is my capital.
Right. No, I think it's really interesting to hear you talk about how technology is getting adopted by all of that. I think we are a country where we're beginning to see, especially with mobile and internet, how it's really helping bring in a larger inclusion. And to hear about these women adopting some of these technologies is really impressive. In fact, we just announced, earlier in our event, something called a Sambhav Fund. And that's really going to look at a lot of these kind of ways where we can really help reach out to SMBs and entrepreneurs, but across even sectors like agriculture and so on. But before I go further, you mentioned about a business school that you really have, that Mandeshi runs, etc. So tell us a little more about how do you really help with that? Tell us a little more about that and the skilling efforts that you do. and does this cover technology, and how does it really work? Because that's a very interesting part.
So when we started bank, women used to come. They would like do savings, they would take credit, we have a pension product with the partnerships and all that. But women would always say, and the one thing they would say, like, we have to travel a lot. So then everything Mandeshi provided is their doorstep. And now, of course, it's not only just physical doorstep, but now digital has come to the door, right? As you mentioned, Minali. But when many women would say, like, okay, our finance, we get an access to finance, we have a control on finance. When they say that control on finance means that our women are doing mobile banking, they have control on digital wallet also. But then they say that, we have never been to the high schools also. We have never been able to study. But we want to know more about the market. We want an information about how to scale their business. So then we thought, and it was very interesting that, Mandeshi started a business school in 2007, when nobody was talking about financial literacy, digital financial literacy. But when we started the business school, it was not just kapad and papad. Like, I don't actually consider that also below dignity. It's all about the food, and it's such a big thing. But what I'm trying to say is that actually women were saying that we want to start business, we want to scale it, and they have so much of challenges within their family, right? If they miss the education, but now when they want to do the business, they want to understand the calculations, they want to make the plan, and how do they do it? So then we thought, why not start a business school for women, Mandeshi Udyogini, for those women who have never been to the school. And what this business school provides is that we say Hisab, Hunnar or Himmat, capital, courage and capacity. So and skills. So these things are actually where women get an not training, and not only just so that's a Mandeshi Udyogini, we have which is business school, and post pandemic now we are launching the digital business school, where under which, even if they don't have to come from their smartphone, from the mobile, Mandeshi has radio, where on the radio also women share their stories. See, how do you learn about to scale the business? If you go to Harvard and you attend the master class, or you go to any Ivy League university, what these master class teaches? They teach you the experiences of the people who have stories of the people who have built their business, right? So we also have a radio where women share their story, and particularly share their failures, so that women can understand that how do I scale my business? How do I link with the market? How do I use the technology in the business? So this is what Mandeshi does with the business school.
Right. A lot of our audience here is very keen to understand about scaling. And yet, I suspect many of them may not necessarily know what's the kind of potential that rural might offer to them. So, is there a role, do you think, not just for large corporates, but even for small and medium businesses or entrepreneurs, really to start exploring this potential in some of these areas? And how do you think will that intersect with the scaling that you're really looking for your core audience of rural women?
Yeah, Minali, this is very important question when you talk about the rural India, because the rural India is very much fragmented, right? And it's not very easy to aggregate. And I'm being on this whole Amazon Sambhava, I feel that it is such a challenging thing that to bring the things together at one place. In rural India, see, for example, if you take, say, dairy, and there in country like India, where each household per capita animal is so small, and then how do you aggregate the milk? And similar way, there are so many other products also in the different businesses. So how do you do? I know that technology is enabler, and through technology you can do lot of like aggregation digitally also and link to the market. But before talking about these old technology, I do feel that the time has come where in rural India now, if you really want to scale, you have to set up and create those structures at a rural level also. So I'm talking about farmer producer companies, farmer producer organization, skill those who are artisans organization. And I'm talking not just organization as coming together and learning, but creating the economic structures. And those are like, companies and all, which has become so important, because unless you form them, and I'm so proud to share with you, Minari, that our women have formed Mandeshi has the first farmer producer organization in the country, where women farmers have come together and started the company and plus registered it, and now it's marketing. So then when you create these structures and when you want to scale, then the second part comes is that when women are producing, even like, let me give you the one example, that Alatur women in Maharashtra are producing dal, farmer women. But in post-pandemic, our women actually met the order of 37,000 kilo of dal. Can you imagine? 37,000 kilo of dal. How did they do it? So we had a farmer producer company. Then we had an aggregator. That is again a very male dominated area, where you become a sort of, in local level, they will say dalal, but we would say it's not. It's an aggregator. They would aggregate from the farmers, bring it at one place, quality control, checking, grading, packaging, and dispatching, right? That is how. But all these facilities, you have to create at rural area, bring them together, and then you scale it. And for that, I do feel that the local structures, local companies are important. That is one. And another thing I find it very important is that we need some role models and some stories where women say that this is not only happening in Mumbai, this is not only happening in Bangalore, but it is happening in tier 3 cities like Satara. And that our women have done it. So I think that whole scaling story has to be narrated in two ways. One is that you showcase the whole network and the whole ecosystem. That is one, where you would require a local warehousing and all that. And the second is that you showcase the business leaders.
Chitra, those sound like there must be some really wonderful stories of grit and perseverance and determination from a lot of these women. And I think Mandeshi is doing so much there with them. But a question that I have is, in terms of rural microfinance, how do you see that shaping up, and how is that becoming better? How do you see, that helping, or what are the challenges that continue to remain in that segment?
So, microfinance has been very successful in India, even in rural India. And it's a bigger than $20 billion industry. And why it is successful? Because women have paid the loan in time and investors have got return in time, right? So it's very interesting that women actually prove themselves. Either we are in the villages or in the urban area. With a peer group, we pay in time. And so investors got the confidence, right? That is the another thing with the microfinance. Now the whole challenges, and it's in rural India also, post-pandemic, there are challenges with microfinance also, because the lockdown made it impossible for people to continue their business. And if they cannot continue the business, it will be difficult to repay. But still, I feel that, as the economy is taking grip, women are coming forward and repaying. So the one clear statement we can see in microfinance is that women are repaying, peer pressure is working, instead of an alternative to collateral. Now, the whole challenge I feel with the microfinance is that microfinance has not graduated from micro credit to micro enterprise credit, right? And that, I think, is actually a question of a supply side. When I say supply side, what I mean is that either it is NBFCs or it is banks or it is like government with Mudra loan and everything. They have to create alternative systems where if the collateral is not there, how do you do the credit rating? How do you do actually provide the digital facility to repayment? Now, actually, how do you give the digital facility of repayment? It's not digital financial literacy. It's to get the digital source of money. And Minari, I'm just being extending your question that it's micro finance will have to graduate, and it will be only possible to graduate if our women, those who are taking micro loans, micro credit, if they will take a micro enterprise loan. How will it be possible? Number one, if they have a digital source of money, so that they are in a formal economy. When I say that, what I mean is, let me share a story of Manisha Jimal. She's doing her milk business. She's doing milk vending. She knows digital financial literacy. But how would she be able to send the bill to her client? You know what she did? Mandishi provided this whole accounting app to her and the training. And through the accounting app on her smartphone, she sent the bill to her milk client buyer. Now, it wasn't new for us. I mean, we were so surprised how women are using the technology. Sitting in a village, very small village, Manisha is sending her bill digitally from cell phone and telling her buyer of the milk that pay me my money digitally. Once he pays the money digitally, then Manisha will have a digital history, digital footprint of her business. And then she can show that this is my working capital.
I was actually going to just ask you about that. I said how this whole digital payments environment, as we do UPI and a lot of these, NPCI-led transactions and digital transactions, how is that really helping the rural women and your core audience in Mandeshi Bank? And how is that really playing a role in all of these, especially, like you said, the whole micro enterprise credit part?
So, post-pandemic digital payment has become a very important. And it's not just digital payment. I'm just saying that, of course, as I mentioned, that she actually got the bill digitally, and then she got the digital footprint of her transactions. And when she gets her digital, when she does the financial transaction digitally, what Mandeshi Bank has the digital banking, and our women have a digital wallet. It was very interesting when we were actually setting up the whole system with our women about how do we provide a digital wallet to our women. And we were doing digital financial literacy for our women. And our women said that we want digital wallet, but we want one thing very clear, that smartphone for every woman. We don't want, in India, we have this whole thing that one household, one guest, one household, one Jan Dhan account. Our women said, no, we do not want one household, one smartphone. No, we want our own smartphone. Why? Because otherwise they will not get a turn, right? It will be used for the children's education. Husband is going to use. So our women wanted their own digital wallet. And when they have that, they have a control on it. And it is not only that they do digital payment, but they also do digital transactions. And so our women said that, we also do not want a PIN number. But so we were trying to say that you would have a PIN number, but they said we want some additional safety and security. And so they said, what about biometric? And then so we linked up whole digital banking for the clients with the biometric. When we did that, what our women said? They said, ki PIN number anybody can steal, but my thumb nobody will take away. The whole idea of control on finance was so clear to them. That's why I always emphasize that from these women, what I've learned is that, even in spite of their non-education, they don't look themselves that they are not educated. They are confident that they can use the digital banking. And with this, as I emphasize, never provide poor solutions to poor people. But actually with this whole digital payment, I do think that there would be a very big push into the whole digital world, because then, and it's one thing again, I would like to also focus from the supply side, people, those who are providing these facilities, that it is not that poor people do not understand digital banking, digital transaction, digital payment. It's a question of how much prompt you are in creating that trust of that, right? So if I do one transaction, and if I don't get immediate message, I will not get the trust. Many of our women, they do 1 rupee transaction first. And then when they get the immediate SMS, they will go for the second transaction. What does it say? It says that trust just does not come by teaching, trust just does not come by advising, trust comes by action. If rural women will get immediate SMS and immediate confirmation that your transaction is successful, and they could see that, that will actually create the digital speed of the rural India. And I don't see that it is only in actually digital payments or digital finance. It's also lot of our women are using e-marketing. And in that also we saw that this is when they send their produce and when the person reach to their client with the product, and then when they do the transaction and they get the money, they get the money, then they, so I do feel that it's not only digital financial, but it's also digital e-commerce. Both has to go together. And if you really work together, then that confidence will not stop our women entrepreneurs at all, because they get the digital business and finance, their digital money. They supply the good and they get the digital payment. That becomes, if it goes together, then they will take the risk and create the scale for themselves, for their business.
This is, music to my ears. We talk so much about Atmanirbhar Bharat, and at Amazon, we're so passionately committed to really helping entrepreneurs in far-flung remote areas, and especially women entrepreneurs, really, leverage technology and help scale. So I think what you're telling us are such wonderful stories about women who understand, controlling their finance and using technology and all of it. So one final question I would really have for you is, what would you advise this audience that we have, this really vast audience of entrepreneurs and SMBs and companies, businesses and investors or venture funds, that how can they really play a role in these rural areas? And how do you see these rural women joining hands with this larger, business community to really contribute and make a difference?
So one thing, Minari, I always feel that, younger generation is innovative, ready to take a risk, very smart. And that actually is very much needed in the rural, for the rural population also. And one thing I would just like to say that, every time, when we started a bank, I thought that Kantabai will never, will she be able to save? But I was proved wrong, right? That she not only did saving, but she actually built a house in her name. When Manisha Jimal, who had never been to the high school, and when she started the digital transaction, we were just amazed, and we thought, she would require so much of financial digital literacy. But today, Manisha is teaching even the village sarpanch how to do digital transaction. So I just want to tell the audience that, these, number one is listen to people. They are smart. It's a, and one thing I would just request that, it's a, how do we work at an equal level? Because now technology has become an enabler, and the people in the rural India are coming to play at an equal level field. So it's important when we are thinking to find the solutions, it is very important to think where they are. Maybe what we are trying to advise them is not going to work at all. So it's very important to listen to them. And that is number one. And second, whatever solution you give, it has to be very simple. Things, that you need not to be very complexities. And even so many women who have never been to the school are doing the digital transaction, are using the QR code, which actually clearly indicates that they are capable. So be simple, listen to them. I think they will actually ride the Bharat over India.
Thanks. I think listening, keeping it simple, using technology, absolutely simple advice, but very relevant, and I think really important. So appreciate that. Thank you so much, Chetna, for being with us here today. I think it's been very inspiring, really, to hear about the work that Mandeshi is doing, that you've really taken upon yourself, but also about these women who are really at the heart of the work that you're doing and making it come alive. So thank you so much for sharing your experiences and insights with us. And we're just privileged to have you with us. Thank you.
İtihatı